So, guys, we are live. It's preparing. We are live. Welcome, Kapil.
Welcome, Kapil.
Hi Moshe, hi Siddharth. Thanks for
Hi. We have Siddharth Sood joining us from the CELTO Acoustic Center in Delhi, Experience Center, and we have our special guest, Kapil Therwani, joining us from Mumbai. And how to make it sound better is the personal motto and quote from our special guest for this edition of CELTO Live. Kapil Therwani hails from a family of people from audio business from the pre-partition days, and his quest for audio has driven him to be one of the first few people from our industry to do his masters in sound acoustics. He's a principal consultant at Munro Acoustic Consulting and has worked across 4 continents and has designed various domestic and overseas professional studios for well-known artists and firms like BBC, the Sony Group, Dolby Labs, artists like U2, Mark Knopfler, A.R. Rahman, to name a few. A guide and a mentor to students and professionals in the acoustics field. And my first question for Kapil today is, you come from a family that's been in the audio business for generations. Why and how did you choose this specialty of audio science, which is acoustics? And how did you get into this field? If you could highlight that for us.
Hi. Good evening, everyone. So, like you said, from a family business to getting into the profession, it wasn't an easy journey. But I've been exposed to good and bad audio since a kid. And when we say from a family business of audio, it was always public address. And that's where it was public address and voice alarm was the family business. So it went on from all the mono sound systems which were there, and I was always part, being a family business, we always for big festivals and stuff, you always go to your office, you interact with people over there, you see what kind of customers come there, and always was enthralled by the audio, the gamut of audio that was around there, and which was quite limited because back in the day when my father's in business from the partition, my grandfather in the business from partition days, and then that business went to Delhi and then came to Bombay. And my father himself is not an engineer, but he's quite technical. He understands this, and there were these questions. What is this? What does that do? Why is that happening? And as a child, if you ask a serious businessman, even father, when he's working, what is there? He will say, "Okay, take this, go and play with this." So I used to have a lot of horn-loaded speakers and a lot of funny. Locally made amplifier that were at home, which you could play around with it over there. And coming up in while in schooling, I was very good in biology. I always want to become a doctor. And when I was trying to play with all these things, and then it's the same time when biology became a bit difficult. When from normal names we went into all the scientific names for trees and plants. So natural discretion was going towards audio and playing around with electronic things. And the thing is, I'm been very lucky because of my family business and connection to the audio industry, the audio market. I was always just a phone call away to my father that I want a kit of this, I want to play with that. Some were successful, some were not successful. At the after passing the in 9th and 10th standard, when you're finishing your high school, you always that's the thing, that what is going to be career next. And back in late 90s, mid 90s, it was like, there were 3 options. You either become an engineer, you become a doctor, or you become an accountant.
Or a lawyer, maybe.
Or a lawyer. That's it.
Yeah.
Over there. And then the father didn't have formal education. He was there. So these were the things, and you always had a lot of friends and families who were educated, but they were, as you saying, in these broad categories of an engineer. And this. So now was it the natural thing was, okay, I'm going to become an engineer. I'm going to become an electronic engineer, and I want to get closer to audio by getting through engineering. So like every student does in the 11th and 12th standard, you slog through those 2 years to HSC, like it's in Maharashtra, to get a person to get in a good engineering college. And that's because that's what determines what your interaction with the outside world will be. So I had a few cousins who were older than me who were in engineering. We say you need to study, get so many marks and you get this. So we got but all that during that time as well. I used to help my dad with his work. He didn't have great health, so I used to go and you used to always see the change. That's a time when people started importing Gemini mixers. My relatives used to start importing Gemini mixers. So you were seeing the change over there, and you're seeing better products come into your hand. And you're getting to learn newer things. And after my 12th standard, got brilliant marks, so I got into electronic engineering, and that's where then after completing
In Bombay?
in Bombay, in Thermal Shani and Bandra.
Okay.
After one
Uh-huh.
year, I was like, dude, this engineering is okay. We are learning BWE. I also took up electronics as a elective in 11th and 12th standard, and my professor Rajesh Samel, he explained. He was the guy who's teaching me physics as well on the side, and I told him what I'm interested in, and he used to explain BW, that is basic electronic and electrical and electronics, with that thing that you should study more on this, you should go and read this book, you should do that. So that when him putting me toward the physics side got me interested with the electronics and the physics. And then while studying to engineering, we do study through engineering, but the education in India is very book driven. It's not really,
Yeah, yeah,
you know
yeah, absolutely.
whatever we were learning in this means I excelled in drawing. I love drawing and technical drawing. So I have a very good professor in the first year
In
engineering.
APMEC,
Sorry.
because I did my engineering from Maharashtra,
Yeah.
so the subject was APMEC.
Yeah.
Is that
It was engineering drawing, ED for us.
engineering? ED, ED.
ED,
Yeah.
ED was and it was my professor Hunawar, who explained to me how to visualize three dimensions and draw it on 2D. So what we do today is very polymath. It's just not one thing. So a wee bit from electronics, a wee bit from physics, and so much on drawing. And you start, you don't know what you're going to do, but you have all this is around in your head that oh, this is what interesting, this is what I like. And during my engineering, everyone was studying for the GREs, and they said we're going to America, and we're going to do telecom because telecom is the best thing happening right now. We're going to do IT, and this is there. And I was like, no, this is no. I don't understand this stuff. Yeah, I'm not interested in C++ programming. I'm not interested in the other things. I'm not interested in robotics. I'm not interested in the other subjects we taught here. I took up DSP, and in third year engineering, I was visiting a UK. I was visiting family with my grandparents, and I came across a far off relative, kind of a cousin, who was an acoustic engineer. So while talking, oh, what do you do? He said, oh, I design headsets for the military, and this is what
Okay.
acoustic is all about. This we do electroacoustics, and he had a bunch of things in his home office with a lot of transducers and stuff. I said, this sounds interesting. This is what brings electronics and physics and all this drawing together, because there were a bunch of plans on the table. We're designing these circumodal headsets, what we call, which covers the head. And that trip came back to India. I was still in third year, and third year engineering, was finishing my engineering, and I started learning about acoustics, reading a few books, getting books from Lamington Road. That was the only way to get some books on sound and stuff. And I started understanding why and how is I have to progress. This is what I want to learn. I want to be in the sound business. I want to be in the audio business. I want to be in the acoustics, but I want to be from this side of. I never thought I'll get into building acoustics. At that time, I was a member of the Audio Engineering Society. Neville Thiel had come to India, and Thiel small parameters.
Feel small param. Yeah, yeah. I know Neville Fields.
I
Yeah.
met him, and I helped out as a student member. And I told him these are my interests. He said, "Why don't you apply to University of Sydney? They have an architectural acoustics program." And I was like, oh, nice. So I spoke to the professor over there, and they gave me a full scholarship on that. He said you could join when you finish your engineering. You give write your SOP and stuff, but we know you are interested in that, and this is there. But there was still something back of my head that I don't want to do architectural acoustics. I'm coming from the audio system side. I want to get from the audio side of it. I researched further, and then UK came up with University of Salford, which has the MSc in audio acoustics, and I emailed them. And my professor was Mark Avis, who was my post director later. He's saying, "Oh, thank you for your email, and at the end of it, give me details of the course, the fees, and what all is required for your language studies and stuff. And he said, by the way, you're the first student in the history of this university, which is 25 years, that from India who's applying for this course. Are you sure? I said, no, I've done my research. I applied to
Hmm.
University of Sydney as well. But architectural acoustics is not what I want to do. I want to do something which is the audio side of acoustics. And that's how I got there. And I started after my engineering. I didn't go. Engineering gets done by August, and then by September all these courses start. I said I will take up because that last line said, "Are you sure you want to do it?" I said, "I'm going to finish my engineering. I'm going to see what's happening in this, in this market, and what is the interest level of interest of acoustics over here." So after my BE, which I passed with first class honors, I started going to my dad's office. I went to meet a lot of people who were in the audio business. I also did a course in sound recording and reproduction to understand that
Okay.
my interest in audio, is it audio, pure electronics audio, is it pure acoustics audio, or it is something sitting in the studio. I visited a lot of studios that time. I went to Sunny Super Sound, I went to Yashraj was built that time. I went to all these places to understand what exactly is there, because there was no in that time there was internet was there, but it was not our daily life, the
No,
email.
of course. You're talking about mid 90s, am I right? Or
late
or
late 90s,
late
2000s.
90s? Okay.
Means internet was there, but it was
Yeah.
not like on
Yeah. Yeah.
you were looking at
Yeah. Not the way it is today.
so I did a course. Read in the paper about a course in sound recording and reproduction, and we attended that course over 7 months course where they touched upon acoustics of the NCPA, and that got me more interested. But I knew that okay, I came first on the course because of my maths and science background from engineering. It was easy to pass these things when you finish engineering. But I still like studio life is not my life. I'm sure I want to do this. So I mean, what I would like to say is that everyone's journey is you have it just constricts your movement to go in a direction. It's like water is free flowing. It could go everywhere. But all the way someone's career is guided towards it, it's your personal circumstances. And I've been very
Circumstance.
lucky. I've been very lucky in these things. And I worked with Onida. They had designed the boombox TV that time. So though I
Ah,
was on R&D, I was more onto the manufacturing side because from electronics background. But I understood the design of that. It you have to make sure that this is for you when no one else is doing it around you. If someone tells you're the first Indian to go and study this, and you have to see that if you want to come back to India, will there be a job which is a non-research job? Because that time there was underwater acoustics, there were physical acoustics being done in Delhi, in Bangalore, but that was not something I wanted to get into. So finally, went a year later. I went for my masters, finished my masters, and that time I did a project with the company, my cousin's company, where I designed a headset for the Ministry of Defense, and it was a
okay.
massive circle model headset. I mean, we modeled it in MATLAB with the ear canal and a lot of other things, and that design got chosen by the company to sell to as a product to the Ministry of Defense. So my university was happy. I was happy. I got a big chunk of a scholarship which came my way. Being Sindhi, I got paid more than I paid for studying and living in the UK that time. You know,
और क्या चाहिए?
you're
That,
on, you're on top of the world because
yeah, yeah.
you gain what you have to do work wise
Uh,
and education wise,
yeah, yeah.
and you didn't pay for anything of it because it just turned out that you had more money in your pocket when I came back to
Then
India.
you started, yeah. 100% plus ROI.
Yes, yeah, ROI as you call it.
ROI. As a Sindhi, तो
Yeah, no, but the thing is, with today, when I'm talking to students and stuff, for them to take a loan and go, there's always an axe on their head, and there's this, I
yeah, yeah.
take the
True,
money back. Whether you've taken the
true,
money
true.
from your father or you've taken a bank loan, I took the money from my father. See, at the end of
Correct.
the day, the way the Indian parent is, ask a son, ki, I've spent so much money, please give it back. But it's still not your money. You haven't
Hmm.
earned that money. You have taken from someone. So you're on top of the world. That okay, I have done that. I have got the money.
And I've
Now
got a
yeah,
surplus.
now I want to do what should I do? What I should go back to India or I should stick around the UK. So after my masters, I had and my project and with all that money in mind, I said I'm going to try going to India. When I came to India and I spoke to People by that time India had advanced into imports from China and other things. There were brands started coming other
Yeah,
than the
brands started. Yeah,
you
post
know
2000,
yeah, yeah.
yeah, because the restrictions were restricted, limit
2004
restricted.
2004 I'm talking about. There were
Huh.
DJ mixers was there.
So
Denon was
everything had started. Yeah.
used to have that CD player type of Denon car. That player used to be there,
Yeah.
3000
Right.
player.
Right.
So
Yeah.
all
Yeah.
that nightclubs had started getting in. I had heard about clubs like Velocity have, or there are clubs over there, proper sound systems. Different brands which are there, big in the world today, were there. So when I came and said, okay, I'm gonna apply for a job, there I went, Acha, we don't have a job for DJ. I said, no, I'm not a DJ. I've studied acoustics. So it was an effort to explain to everyone what
Explain what.
acoustics is. And I was like, so one day I had gone to Sunny Super Sound. There was a very senior engineer, Suresh Katuria. So I said, sir, I have studied this and I've come, I want to design studios like studio you're sitting in and stuff because I have the theory knowledge. I will get on to it over there. And that he said, in this country, no one will teach you anything. Please go back to UK, learn it over there, work over there, and come back. Because here we'll follow white papers. Dolby will say, put this here, put it over there. This is there. Because this is what is happening from all this while. And there are foreign consultants who come in India to design. And that time was the time when all foreign consultants were designing studios in India.
Well, yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Pro being one of them. So I said, if I have to learn this, I don't want to get into research because designing the headset was a lot of research, a lot of MATLAB, a lot of this. I said, I don't want to get into research. I want to move in India. I want to be in entertainment. And studio is one thing that excites me now after meeting a lot of people in studio because that's where people understood what acoustics is. Everywhere
Hmm.
else in the sound business, people thought I'm a DJ. So I said, no.
Correct. That
So
concept wasn't there. I think only it was initially the first few nightclubs. I think if I remember correctly, Juliana's was contracted to do them. Like they did some of the big ones in Delhi. I don't know. I'm not sure about Bombay, but yeah, it was. But as you're saying, the concept of I think what happened was around late 90s when the restrictions before that because we were into manufacturing or import.
hmm,
So before that, it was in a red category. I mean, you had to actually pay a penalty every time you imported. So getting equipment was sparse. So I think it only happened post 2000 that actually you started seeing equipment coming in. I mean, as late as that, or as just 20 years back, where suddenly now equipment was there. So I think at that time, to make people, because I think what happened was before that you didn't really have quality equipment. To be very, I mean, to fair to everything and everybody, but
the public systems, it was
yeah,
Auja,
you had
all
the PA systems.
Yeah.
So I think at that time to tell people that you have to that it's not just the equipment and this but the space which has to be treated, that must have been a huge challenge, as you're saying.
But that's the only reason because that was happening in studios that time because studio wanted isolation, soundproofing, and they wanted the acoustics over there. So that's the only line of work or that was a room where people thought of acoustics.
Acoustics,
Right,
right?
whether it's all about soundproofing or not. So I felt more towards the sound studio is that
Yeah,
really
drown,
understand what I've studied. And
studied, right?
nothing is studying on its own is has no thing till you don't apply it over there. So I have my masters, I have the theory, I have this research I've done for headset and all that's this, but you have to apply it over there. Now applying it over there is again architectural acoustics. And when I heard this from there that they are that time Martin Pilsner was doing from the US was doing the big studio at Yashraj. There were a couple of the guys, and Andy Munro. I heard the name, and I said, if I'm going to go back to the UK, I will not. I'm not going to work in as an acoustic engineer. I mean, that's a different way. As an acoustic consultant, an acoustic engineer, and a studio designer means the studio designer has to do more than acoustics in when you design a studio. So I said I want to get into the acoustics part of studios, and I applied to this. At that time, email was there, but the way people replied to you was by sending a fax, and I'm talking about 2004. And
Okay. So you sent an
2004,
email and they sent a fax.
no, I used to send an email. I never used to get a response.
Acha,
So
okay.
I told the cousin of mine that I'm not getting response from these three email addresses. Saying these way it's still growing in the UK as well. Like people respond after some time. So I said I'm coming to this for my convocation anyway. So come and then your CV send it by fax. So I went to use the UK for my convocation and my my degree ending and stuff. So I sent Andy Munro, and two others. Yeah, my CV by fax, and I got a response. You had to give a local number, so I gave my cousin response that can you please come and meet us. And I remember this is so I reached on a Wednesday,
Hmm.
and the fax Thursday morning, and they asked me to come Friday, and this was
Oh,
April of 2004. And
okay.
Friday I reach, I go to London Bridge and meet Mr. Andy Munro. He's like, whatever, pleasantries, explain pleasantries, told him what is there, my background, and what I did. So I said, I'm very intrigued to know that, say, oh, the facts came in, and, one of your colleagues who studied with you picked up the facts and gave it to me, and he said, oh, and we were looking for someone in India to take care of
Oh,
this. I said,
okay.
so I said, you want someone to be working in the UK or India? He said, definitely work in the UK, get some experience. So, and once you think you're ready, you might move back to India and handle the projects over there. And this was, I've been just worked there, and I did to and fro trips. And first thing I worked on was BBC, and that's when drawing came into play. So to be any kind of designer, you have the ideas in your head. You could make formulas on paper, but you have to represent it over there. Here we have to represent it to architects and contractors. So he said, "Do you know AutoCAD?" I said, "I don't know AutoCAD." I said, "Okay, you have to learn AutoCAD." So first job was to draw the recording on air light outside a studio. And
Okay.
so I know concepts of drawing. I could draw it out in isometric. Now
Hmm.
to understand this, so and it wasn't that YouTube was always there that how to make a line in this. So learn those. I had to sit long hours and learn AutoCAD. And once I think it was few weeks into it, and I started reading books about drawing with AutoCAD and stuff. And then they started getting me onto projects, and I got onto Mark Knopfler's project. I got onto the BBC actual class studio project, and then this was my interest. And but during that time, I used to do something, and then say you do it, we'll tell you why you have done. So they would tell me, okay, this is why we did it over there. So it was a very easy way of learning. Is they've been doing this for donkey years. Andy's been doing it for the longest time, and for him to explain and mentor in that manner was so nice and so simple and so straightforward. Unless when you go and learn theory and there's these big terms and big equations, everything for us in my masters was solving that wave equation with boundary conditions. Now, designer studio thinking about boundary conditions, so they have tested so many studios. They have all the data. Say this is what you do and this is what you perform. Now this is how we work on that. So the way of teaching was so unique, and so straightforward and so simple terms were used that I picked it up very very quickly. And started doing independent projects. I started my first international project out of the UK. Was definitely India, but I was started doing project in Bangkok. I designed a mixed room, and that was then, and it's today I'm handling all the acoustic design for them worldwide, for projects worldwide. So it's that's how.
Today you've done some of the leading. I don't think any Bollywood studio you would not have done in Bombay
So the,
or across the country, I would say.
the thing is, I always had the advantage. I say, I've been very lucky from being pushed into the audio by having access to education, by getting engineering, and then getting into Andy's company, Munro Acoustics, and them having projects like the Sahara, Blue Frog. I've been lucky; it's always come into my lap. So it just happened that I moved to India. I started working
Being-
alone from 2007 until about 2014. Everything I designed that time, I was sitting alone in the office, doing the drawing, doing the site visits, doing the testing, doing the reporting. And but
You kind of learned the whole. You got a entire gambit, 360-degree
yeah,
gambit of the
I
thing,
mean, everything was imported that time in India,
right?
like the acoustic material, everything was there. It was Rockwool here. So the thing is, you have this specification sheet in your head, and how you find alternatives here. You test them in a space. So I used to do a lot of testing. So the best thing to do was I was given a meter, a sound level meter, and I used to use it for everything. Whether it is understanding what the traffic noise is, understanding how my window performs over there. If you don't understand the is as a frequency wise, it's that's the end of it. So sitting with a
Mhm.
meter and testing a lot. Like I used to get I used to go to South Bombay to where they used to sell Rockwool, get a bag full of Rockwool in my car, lay it on the floor. I didn't have a laboratory. I lay it on the floor and test it over there, and seeing what was the difference over there, whether the data given by them was correct or not. So there was a lot of self learning putting up
Which,
over there and making your own database. And everyone does it. You do it at, a certain speaker would sound
yeah.
good in a certain environment. That comes from experience. So, but to
Yeah,
get
you have
you
to
have to
put it
take the
through its
mistakes.
paces.
You have
Yeah,
to
you
go
you
through
have to
it.
you have to play around with it. I mean, there's no, and yeah, absolutely, because till you don't play around with a product, you don't really know what it can and what it can't do, and both of the things are important. So Kapil, tell me, it's very interesting because you did BBC, and BBC is great experience, and also, and of course with Andy Munro and the kind of experience you got. So now you, from there you come to India,
Hmm.
and please correct, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. You come into India and now you've got all this information, you've got all the knowledge, you've done stuff, and now you come into environment where, please correct me if I'm wrong, but people think कि वो air gap, glass wall और acoustics तो हो गया.
It was
I
there. The thing is, when I came to India, I already had projects in hand. I had a Sahara studio, I had Kailash Care studio, I had Sandeep Shirokar studio, I had Blue Frog Club and studios over there. So I was very, I had my blinkers on. I was only doing those projects over there.
you were
I never went
focused
out and said,
on
I'm
to
a acoustic consultant, give me projects. So I never got
okay, okay,
exposed to, I never got corrupted in that. So
okay,
I was still using my interaction was I had my IP phone here. If I had to discuss a project, I had to call up Andy, call up Clive, or call up Chris, or anyone in the office, Phil, and discuss the project with them. So for me, I was physically in India, but my mind, body, soul was in UK. It's like I'm sitting in this. Only I was in India to go and access those sites, click pictures and stuff. And that
so
time you used to have digital cameras, with with the memory cards, and you had to go and put it back in a computer, and
computer and then send it.
was there. So it was a thing is that the process was slow. Today the process is so fast that you don't absorb it over there. It's just you click a picture, click a video on your thing, and but it's there on as a data. That time you had to download everything, you had to see everything, you had to spot, you had to make a circle around it. It's not the computer that time. I got exposed to Macintosh a bit later, but with the PC and stuff, it was to mark it out, put it on a Word document. It was a lot of hard work and doing everything on your own, because back in the office in UK, you have to do everything on you. You have to make your own report, you have to print your own,
Yeah, yeah,
drawings,
you
you
do
have to put
everything.
your own drawings.
Hmm.
In and for those many years, I worked on my own. So, though I was physically present in India, but that's a advantage for me that I was working on the UK norms. All the planning purposes, all the I was using all that interaction to design over here, and that's why the best of my work, earlier was done all on my own. It was of course with the help with the office in London, but that was how it was, that every design was discussed, whether it's aircon design, whether it was the isolation design. It was all discussed, it was tested, and we had to make the reports, even though we were not the client was not asking for a site report, but we still made it. I still put. I remember I had to put on my time for every project. How much time I spent on the site over there. I mean, those things make you learn that what is there. See what is your output on
Discipline.
a project over there. And when you're doing
Yeah,
when a single
discipline.
person is doing multiple projects on his own and he has to
Hmm.
report back,
Hmm.
he has to have a tabulated data and have everything on in front of you in a computer on a drive, so you can discuss it over there. And that self teaching and self learning means you have to teach yourself how to be organized as well, is was a big part in my learning, which in today everything is so easy to get, to your softwares to put all your pictures together and compress them. We have the drive to access. So here we are doing work in this thing, but thing is, I have a very good bunch of people I work with, my colleague, and I'm happy that they share my my enthusiasm and my work style and stuff. So I'm enforcing it on them. They will not willingly doing it, but this is how I learned it. And this is the only way I know I can teach, because if I learned it over there, not coming from a studio background and doing, as you said, all the studios in India at that time. When there was, you name the music directors, studios done by Monroe Acoustics. I mean, also there were not many options that time. Also, maybe it was our past work which people worked in those studios, and we had that gamut of work to do. And then 2014, I started adding people in the team because I wanted to pay attention to projects outside India, because I getting involved in a lot of projects outside India. So the 7 years was self-learning, self-teaching, and also making all the documentation and keeping all the data ready. So we test every studio we do. We do every kind of testing. So I know I can go back to some data and extrapolate from that and know what happened. And that is the experience. Whether that
Right.
experience is stored in your head on a computer, that's the experience.
Right.
That's your hard work into it.
Yeah, every project you work on is added experience, but tell me that so that means when you came back and you started, you pretty much had the client base. They knew who you are and what they want. So you did not really have to get into that thing where you are having to go really out and get business as such. That's what you're saying. Matlab, you didn't have to go and
It was very word to mouth that time.
okay,
I got business over there, but it was based on, okay, someone gave my reference. For example, Kailash K studio, Salim
right,
Suman gave my reference, and I met him, and we just discussed over there. And it was never a meeting just to, we casually met up, and he went to his place and he said, "You'll have breakfast." He said, "Okay, I'll have breakfast." He cooked breakfast for me, and he started singing Teri Diwani, and I was like, "Wow, dude, this is what I'm saying." I'm very privileged that it all fell into place. It's like
fell into
tennis.
place.
It all has to fall into place, and you have to be truthful to what you do.
Yes,
My
absolutely.
meeting with him was not, we've done Salim Suleiman studio. So he said, "Oh, this is." He gave me an idea. Today we don't have that time, where someone will say, "Oh, this is my idea. This is what I want to do." Now I understood his idea. He said, "I want a studio which doesn't look like a studio. It feels like it is, it's an outhouse where I can go chill and relax." So means that those 7 years I was doing work was there, but the project that happened during that time and after that as well was developing my style of doing work. What people want, what kind of interior design they like, what is there, what's the final outcome.
Integrating that with it.
Yeah, I mean,
Hmm.
so, yeah, what kind of
But
monitors do they like? What kind of sound does people like? And it's just today you cannot force your decision or your liking on someone else. You know,
no, absolutely not.
everyone has so much knowledge and
No,
access to
access to
technology.
information and stuff.
And
Yeah.
technology also, and gear is becoming cheaper. People buy that. They know what they want. Our job as a consultant is to make that work for them, whatever is thrown at us. So is it was um, developing many ways of getting to the project was okay. Before people bought or signed a lease, we should make a plan and give it to them. And
Okay.
yeah, this is X amount it will cost. Now if I hadn't done my research of what materials I could use in India, with respect to say types of foams or rubber or whatever was the requirement for the design, I wouldn't have been able to make a costing. So I was the first guy who made BOQs in the acoustic domain, saying that this is what is required and this is the wastage is over there. The wastage in UK and India is not the same. The wastage in
No,
India is much higher,
much higher.
much
Absolutely.
higher. So I can
Yeah.
formula of 7 to 10%. It's 15% in India. So you learn those things. If you haven't been through it, means today I am saying because I've done it over there, but it can be used by you because you know that 15% is what the wastage people should take. So you have to start that. You have to start that process of a certain way of working in a certain in any line of work. And I got all the information and I started designing. And though I'm not an interior designer, but I understood exactly what people want. And made we learned SketchUp was very quite new that time. And started learning SketchUp. So you have to teach yourself new ways of doing stuff. And that's where you advance. There's no the education doesn't stop your learning. You keep learning day in day out. and
True. True.
and I mean, I'm still learning. I probably don't know everything this over there. What I know is from the projects and my mistakes and my past. I know, and I know I will not don't have to repeat those mistakes, or
So same
those
thing.
are things
Yeah.
that work. Those things that work for me. But
True.
in acoustics, you get new challenges every day. Like you get glass atriums of different sizes. There's no one solution fit all. You have to
No,
think. And the basic of acoustics starts with common sense thinking, and it's listening to the problem. Today if someone says, there is a problem in this thing over there, there's an echo over there, there's a high reverb over there. Just saying, okay, go and stick some baffles over is not there. There might be some other issues. There might be, you have to go step by step. Even though you being a big consultant, you have done everything over there, but you have to break down the problem into smaller problems. Because my colleague Clive is an architect in the office, and he's one of the directors of the company in Monroe. He told me, whenever you go to site, is not when you give the answer. Site is to listen. Site means you listen to everything. You make a judgment of the problem. Yeah, you come back, you have a think about it, you calculate, and then you go and give a solution. The solution given on site from experience. If you know the answer from experience, yes, this is what is there. But if you don't know the answer, it's not the answer to be given, because
then you have to do this thing on it.
because it's a snowballing effect. One
Yeah.
small
Yeah.
thing which might not be a right answer could just go into a snowball into a bigger problem, cost wise, time wise. So as I said, you learn all the time. I keep learning from my colleagues. My colleagues are all engineers. They all are practicing acoustics. Someone comes from the computer side of things. Someone comes from the electrical side. Someone comes from the mechanical civil side. And I'm not. I will not understand civil mechanics as good as my colleague will understand. So I would learn from him. But how do I process the data is based on my experience and view. And so it is all teamwork. It was teamwork before. It is teamwork today. And
Of
then we
course.
got to
Of course.
electroacoustics as well. So finally, the full circle. It's come to electroacoustics now of designing, systems and stuff. But we only do electroacoustics where acoustics is involved over there. Our core business is not designing electroacoustics.
So on that note, tell me one thing, because this is something that do you face this kind of a issue or a challenge that what we have kind of seen that a lot of times, because see, we are into equipment, and honestly, when I started doing equipment, like you said, I kind of understood later on that the equipment on its own is not really anything. It's also the environment which it's interacting in. So the acoustics plays maybe as much, if not more, of a role. You can go
No, I use this line a lot when people ask me this. Is for mainly architects. I said the room is as good as a speaker. The speaker is as good as a room.
absolutely,
You have to
absolutely.
go
So
hand
they
in
have to
hand.
go.
You
So
cannot be,
a lot of times we face the problem that a space is completely incorrect in terms of acoustics. Either it doesn't have it or something, and the client comes to us and tells us, "Okay, equipment." They feel that the equipment, or maybe they have been told this, that just with the equipment you can rectify it. And I have very clearly said that equipment can't do anything. Or whether it is, see, the companies came out with those beam steering stuff and things like that. So they just thought that equipment will take care of it. But my thing is that I face this challenge. So I mean, we've been very, like you said, true to yourself, or true to your profession or to your client. You have to tell them that, look, if you don't have acoustics, or if the basics of the room are wrong, the equipment cannot rectify it.
it depends on scenario to scenario. Like you're saying, like a lot of airports, such a big volume, people don't really spend money on acoustics over there. Yeah, So like you're saying, the beam steering, it's band limited. So it has to go hand in hand. Like the worst case scenario would be a fully glazed big hall using a big dance stack and maybe use a nightclub. So as I said, in every project is a problem. You have to break into smaller problems and come into that as a solution bank over there. But we really don't get involved in equipment sales or into design of electroacoustics. So we only go when the acoustics or isolation required. And in isolation required, which is more challenging, as we were discussing earlier, like testing. I will do all the mathematical calculation, make a specification, make it over there. As long they are what you do in theory and what comes on practice. There's always a field correction. There could be clanking parts. There could be a multiple number of service holes over there which you didn't account for, you didn't know about earlier. So you have to test and find your own data over there. So in this case as well, when at the end of the day, if you're going to a place and they say the only equipment should do it, I mean, they should do a shootout of 3 or 4 type of not the brands, but someone claiming it's a beam and just see it for your own. Hearing is believing at the end of the day. He bunts down so many numbers as the coach said, data to play. They will not understand. At the end of the day, the client who's paying money, he's saying that he's doing a black and white kind of thing. It works, it doesn't work. If you tell him it might work and stuff, but you have to make them understand all those things. It's and it's also how acceptable a client is to understand these things.
Too open
And
to
I
things.
think,
Yeah, yeah,
as
absolutely.
you said today, the technology is so accessible. All these guys have such expensive systems at home as well. So it becomes easier for us because the client itself knows the issues. Earlier, back in the day, it was always trying to explain the first, tell them the problem, and then tell them a solution. Here, most of the times, architects, project managers, and clients know the problems that arise from past
Right.
experience,
Yeah,
or
because
someone project is there will say this is a problem, and you value add by saying that okay, your noisy air conditioning also brings your background level higher, so it's something to look at. But then you have to tell, when you give a solution, you have to tell them it's going to be so much x of the cost. So having information from different projects about different solutions or different object services over there is very important to go into a meeting, and that's just that in a way becomes a techno commercial sales pitch as well. And this is what might happen, this is that, without scaring the other person. Yeah, we come
right.
across where people overdo something as well. Over engineer. That's a thing is there. A lot of stuff is over engineered sometimes. You have to
You
be as a consultant. You have to be a cost consultant as well. They can't just
so,
tell him.
so is that sometimes like, is that a consideration budget where you when you're doing work, or the kind of work you're doing, does that budget come into, is that a major thing in the consideration or no?
Budgets, yes, budgets is yes. So if someone, I got call, if someone wants to do a studio in a residential premise,
Right.
and a full room inside a room might not be the solution, or might be the solution till I don't see the place or test it over there and see what the weak points are. So there always be a range of things, and you streamline once you have more information, either from site or by technicals or by own testing. So there's no, as I said, there's every project is a new challenge. Some challenges are already known from the past. We had come across when post tension slabs building came into play in Bombay in commercial places. How that slab used to behave. There's a lot of white papers over there, but how it behaves in India's brick and mortar. Whereas now we are getting some technology which are used abroad, like shuttering slabs and stuff. So there's information on shuttering slabs, but people would try to use a different Indianized version of it. So people want to open gymnasiums on these slabs, on PT slabs. You need to test that. If you can't test the impulse response of a slab, how do you know that you're not going to tell us this your 600 square meters of space, you please put this deadening membrane underlay and put a slab over that. You want to raise the cost of your cost. You also want to load the structure. So if they
Right.
have
Right.
the marketplaces and stuff, and so as I said, with the acoustic part, you also have to assume roles of to know about the structure. Talk to a structural consultant. What is happening? What is the resonance of slab? Whether he's doing it by testing or his reason. A lot of structural engineers, when they design buildings, for them is everything below 10 hertz is what is important for them because of earthquakes and other
Right.
seismic things.
Right.
So for us, we need to know that as well. The data doesn't come to you, so you need to do a ball test, drop a ball over there, see the impulse response, see what's happening around there, and do it different places. So all these things, today it is become so fast. Earlier I had all the time in the world to go and do this, whether I got the project or not. Today we're all racing against time, and then say I'm going to do the test if you give me the project, which actually, you know, that's when I decided to get more people. Is that we should do it as if I have more hands, we could do it over there, and we learn in the process as well, right? So tomorrow, someone tells me, "Oh, I have tested a 150 slab." If that's the density of that, that's the M grade of the cement. Oh, I can assume that this would be the problem. So I'm making more database. So learning on the job, from a project as well, you're also gaining. It's not just that you're going to take money from them to design and execute, or and give them a solution. You're also going to learn, which is also going to help. So it's an ever learning process, and that's why I always, yeah, don't push for people who come to me and say acoustics. I say study, learn, whether self study or assisted learning over there. We come from the Indian education system where it has to be pushed into your
Cool.
brain.
Yeah.
Feeding in a way, that's a better, but it's just that it's very pushed kind of learning. It's generally in Southeast Asia. It is like that's how the education system is over there.
Yeah.
If you
That's
can't learn on your own, I mean, today I went for the masters so I can take up books and read them and understand and. But if you can't, then what's the harm to go and learn from someone at least not the full gamut. You won't learn from 0 to 100, but at least you
yes, but
learn
at least
certain
some percentage of the of
certain thing where you're
yes.
where you are where you're stuck at. It could just be some basic stuff. So learning is always is there someone says that if he knows everything, then I don't know. Today if I speak to Andy as well, he has so many years of experience, but if you tell him about this, he has the experience, he can understand the basics of, we all can understand the basics over there. But when a certain product comes in the market and stuff, you need to study it further, test it in an environment to understand.
Environment, yeah,
There's
how
a prediction of that in the future, then you can from experience can predict something like that. There's something which comes back in 2006 or 7 is when the Helmholtz resonator, the panels came in by Top Acoustic and stuff. We had the thing, we had lab data and stuff, but till you didn't use it in a certain way, you use it in a studio or in a bigger space. You have to have your own understanding of those things. Just going by blind data and stuff is to make the report and stuff, but to understand how it's going to happen. Is there going to be a phase criteria in this thing, whether an absorber adds something onto that which is not required into your frequency response, is something you have to learn and test it, and also get feedback. I get feedback from my clients. They are musicians, they are sound engineers, they are such big music programmers and directors. I mean, definitely they have good ears. So
oh yeah, they're trained, they have trained ears,
if they are
absolutely.
talking about a certain frequency and certain things on social terms. I mean, my job as in consultant engineer is to understand the frequency and see what's happening over there. It's when I go and say, "Oh, do you find the sound warm, or is it too boxy and stuff?" That is the terms for them to use. For
You
me,
have to use more specific or
no, I have to find a problem, right?
problem.
I don't, no, I have to find a problem. For me to find a problem is not going to, I can't use terms to find the problem. I need to find that problem frequency.
Specific on from a technical standpoint.
That,
Yeah.
yeah, that, get into the impulse response, extrapolate, whatever I need to find the problem, whether it's it's the energy time curve or whatever it is they require that time. When you said learning this time, I was telling you the other day, I've started learning smart. I use Melissa and WinMLS, and I wanted learn something new, so I did a A/B between place two,
So
and it's fine already.
is smart something which is used in studio designing? I mean, because I mean it's used
Oh,
in live sound.
test
Huh?
to
To
test. Yeah, they
okay.
come with a new impulse response thing. So
Okay.
I've been playing with WinMLS, and which is no longer supported. It's a brilliant software, and you can use that on a Windows platform. I'm using Arta, and I'm
Okay.
using Smart. So now I have limited the resources at home. So whatever I can play on, once I go into the field, I will again, time permits, I will also play in a studio with my WinMLS, because I know how to read it, what it stands for, and what are the limitations of it, and then do A and B, or A, B, and C to see that. So as I say, it's all about learning. It's book reading, it's learning, and it's as
And
in
applying.
applying. Take a meter. If you think that your ears are not that good and whatever, take a meter. The meter will tell you what is there, and then you can pinpoint. Then you're training your ear at the same time.
To
So
yeah, then you're training it with that.
it's the same thing, right? Provided your meter is properly calibrated. If it's not,
So, Kapil, dealing with individual artists versus dealing with corporations like Sony Group or Dolby Labs, does the SOP or your approach differ? Does it change? And if yes, how?
With individuals and stuff, though you use the same ISO norms or you use the EBU norms to design, the different parameters you require over there, they don't want a report saying that what have you designed. They want the final result. Whereas when you go into corporates and stuff, you have to provide all the acoustic specification to a design specification, design documentation, and then so you use the same process to design everything, but you have to document and submit that over there. And also from your initial specification to your final product, you have to test and you have to give them as a report, because that's what is required. Because today, if you're working with a Dolby a specification for Netflix or this, they have to follow the EView norms and this, and so there's a lot of and what works with each other is also something you have to define over there. Not that if someone is looking for a stereo dubbing room and you want to push an Atmos thing over there, because they don't require over there. So if a Disney only requires a stereo control room for their dubbing, unless they don't ask you for 5.1 or a Atmos monitoring, you don't need to really get into those.
Okay.
You don't need to get into an ITU chart showing them the angles of the surround speakers. So it's with corporations and stuff, is that's what it matters.
Documentation is.
Yeah, documentation, and because it has to be designed to a norm. Everything, it's not that for individuals you don't design to a norm, you have to design to a norm over there. But the presentation of data would be more of a pretty picture of the studio for individual than you do 3D and this and walkthroughs and stuff for the corporates, but they also want to know that it's been designed to the norm, because these corporations have principles outside. You need to submit to them. I mean, design all these space in Mumbai. I sent all the design documentation to the UK, to Amsterdam, and though because we designed a place in UK as well, they knew what we're talking about. But like if you're doing something which is for Disney, Disney in India and Disney in Europe have different technical departments who take care of in India and who take care of Europe. So you have to speak the same language. You cannot just say India works this way. It has to be a certain standard. So the learning of the standards and stuff comes from education, learning, reading books, and and reading the white papers. And there's so many guys who are still writing white papers on loudness and so many things. Though it doesn't come directly into the acoustics part, but knowing that and reference to an ITU and an EVU norm is always, it's not, if you learn it and you understand it, it's only going to help you. It's not going to take away from from your experience.
So, Kapil, tell me one thing, that as for some of our viewers, maybe the younger ones or people who are planning to do their own studios or things like that, and maybe even the home studios, there's a lot of information on the internet. But how do you know which, how do they, like, what would be your advice to them? Like, how do they know which is correct or which is the right stuff to follow or not the right stuff to follow? I mean,
Today, everything is, you see about the misconception is foam and stuff. Foam can absorb sound. You just imagine, if you can imagine sound wave, and and imagine the drivers that generate it. Okay, you generate low frequency by woofer, slow moving cone versus a high frequency driver, whether it's a tweeter, it's a horn loaded device, and you don't see that. So if you just think frequency wise and say someone tells you that this foam can absorb, you know 125 hertz. That 125 cycles over there. And as I said, the start point of acoustics or any engineering is just common sense. And just if you look into that, that is what will tell you what's right and what's wrong. Sometimes you say this is unbelievable. Sometimes I come and say unbelievable. Now till I don't see in action or don't measure it over there, I won't come. So if you cannot afford to try it out over there, you need to get some credible data, some information. That's when specification sheets and come into place, where they say. So if it's been tested by a laboratory or by individual, not claimed by someone else, then that's the way it go. But for homes and stuff, a lot of home studios are coming up in during this lockdown, and I have a lot of clients who have made studios for and how they could work out of home. It's just think geometry. You have 2 years, you have your unique head size, you if you're working in stereo, you have to see that your left and right speaker is seeing the same thing. If your left speaker is seeing a window and your right speaker is seeing a hard wall, then
It's going to
definitely
be
bounces off to you, and what comes direct, the interaction of that would be a different thing. Because your ears, unless you're, you're in one point in space where you're actually mixing and taking the decisions, you have to see in those parts over there. And there's I mean, it's not a technical example, but it's just that if you if you you know if you think of sound as a force, and you think that force is your fist, and you want to hit a wall against something, and a brick wall would take some of the recoil, a gypsum wall will take most of the recoil. You think of sound being absorbed by different surfaces as that, soft. That's why soft furnishing, yeah, you can when you always will is absorbing, his open pore will absorb some of the thing. If it's a vibrating thing, membrane, like like your driver, your cone and driver, it will absorb low frequency. So some things just go
common
without
sense.
getting to the acoustics and stuff. It
Yeah,
just
but
and just go by thing. Definitely you cannot. If you people say, I have a noisy road. If I'm gonna put a thick curtain, I will cut off noise over there. Take that curtain, blow through it. If the air goes through, then we need a medium to carry the sound across as well. Yes, it will definitely absorb some of the sound coming over. It's not going to eliminate your traffic noise.
eliminate it.
Yeah.
Hmm. Hmm.
So that can absorb some low frequency if you have a thick curtain away from your wall, glass and stuff. And glass necessary is not your not your enemy. Most of glass facades today 6-8 mm over there. You just keep your ear towards it. And what frequency can you hear from? And if you want to go deeper into it, go and see what is the density of glass, what's the Young's modulus, see at what frequency it is failing, what is the critical frequency the FC is failing at. Yeah. And if you can't hear that, locate that frequency, get your iPhone or your Android phone, get one of those apps which have a good review, which actually use, and see what's coming through, and do a math on Excel or whatever, and see what's happening. So these are the ways to teach yourself. And doing that, it is not difficult. People use a lot of jargon and a lot of difficult words thrown at students to scare them. But acoustics, means when I was looking for the education, a lot of people who don't know will are the people who will throw a lot of things over. So you get more confused, and that's not how it is. It is simple. It is simple. Our ears are analog, and
Absolutely.
they'll stay
They
analog.
will stay analog. They are not going to become
Yeah,
digital.
yeah. So basically, if they're analog in a space, whether it's a bathroom, it's your living room, it's your bedroom, it's a studio, yeah. The arrival of sound to your ears, beyond the ears, whatever is going to be analog, but how it the transmitting medium also is analog over there. Yeah. So if you know that a sound wave, this is the wavelength, this is the speed of sound in this space, and you can extrapolate so many things from basics. So you start off with the basics of what sound is, and when you go deeper, then what impulse response is, what is happening at that frequency, why you're getting a dip, why your left and right speaker at the crossover frequency is showing over there. Okay, your microphone has changes space. There's so many things. There are multi-layer things over there. You have to start off. That's why getting going on a lot of webinars where people are trying to sell a product and explaining is not the right thing. It's just trying to explain what's happening. There are a lot of videos on today explaining how sound can be visualized. People who've been working and have experience can visualize sound in their head and into a certain manner. But
Okay.
there's so many tools today you can visualize. So if you don't understand that, there's no harm in asking them what's wrong with that. If I don't understand HVAC calculation on isolation, I will ask someone in my office who knows more about it. What's wrong in that? I'm also learning. So it's about self-teaching and stuff. And if you can't do, then do these courses which are there. There are online courses today. Been talking about. I've been promoting the IOA, the Institute of Acoustic course. It starts from the basic. It's a 9-month course.
Yes.
It is expensive. It's a diploma. It is
You're
expensive.
doing a lot of work in the education space. Yeah. Please tell. Hmm.
See, I believe that how you can uplift a line of work or anything in your region. I am very passionate about audio music in India, in the region over there. If I get a lot of people who are on the same level, are learning and stuff, acoustics could become a mainline engineering consultancy, like you have your structural and your HVAC. Why not acoustics? So where I can't, I'm not saying that I know everything that I'm teaching. So I'm working with institutions like the Institute of Acoustics, where they have more experience. They have 40, 50 years experience. They have know how to teach better. So if I come to that level, I will also start teaching with them. So it is just, there's in today's thing, the information is there for everyone. It's not that, I'm going to hold all the information for me in my,
Correct. It's freely
in one.
available. Yeah, yeah.
It is
Hmm.
freely available. Why not spread it and get more people? And
That's lovely.
I'm also growing. I'm also being selfish. If I'm growing as a company, I want to hire people in different parts of this, and there are people who are educated, who understand the
Yeah, yeah,
science.
you need that. You need the right level of people with the right level of education
Then
for you to.
interact with the same level of people, right? Technically, as you're saying that you have challenges with the clients, and it will spread. If I have a client in Kerala today, in Trivandrum, and I cannot explain but if there are experts over there who also speak in the same language, my life is easier. So
Life is much
every
easier.
day, spreading knowledge is going to help everyone. It's not going to really, make
No, no,
someone
definitely.
important or less important, which is not right.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I also learned from someone, right? If 15, 20 years back, Andy Mando said, I'm not going to hire more people and explain to them, I won't be doing what I'm doing today. I wouldn't have learned
Correct.
my skill from him.
And there would be more people doing the wrong thing than
Yeah,
more people doing the right thing. If the more people doing right thing, it makes everybody's life easier actually.
true.
You see, earlier, what was the thing? I'll tell you. Earlier, there was the education acoustics only happened in 1970, 75. So, but before that, there were so many grand opera houses and, all these open air,
Amphitheaters and stuff. Yeah,
status
yeah,
there, right? So people knew how to apply it over there. What
yeah.
happened is when we came, then the education happened, and now today what people don't want the education, they want to go online and get a solution and write papers. There are so many people papers out there, but if you don't understand the basic, what are you going to with those? You have to cite those papers, right? Those guys have done something and come to this level to do some research and write a paper over there. So today the education is more important than it was earlier because today there's a lot of wrong information on the internet.
On the that's what
How
that's
do
what
you,
my
so if you don't understand the basics of it, then you're going to learn something wrong. Like people are trying today with social media, everyone's trying to sell, as you said, a wrong solution. The foam as a solution for isolation.
simple. I
Curtain,
mean,
curtain as a solution for room. So if you, because you're reading that and you're seeing fancy videos and say, the animation shows that the sound is getting cut. But if you understand, then you'll bounce it off. But if you don't understand, you'll believe that. So that is
Kapil, believe me, we have a demo room here where I'm sitting right now, which is our experience center. It's 1,000 square feet room. I have learned the hard way because I asked somebody whom I thought does. I'm not taking names or anything stuff like that, but I thought somebody who knows about acoustics because we do hardware. So I
yeah.
thought somebody who's doing the acoustics. I asked them, okay, can you just do it for this place? The guy did something which without completely understanding. I mean, वही air gap लेके लगा के खत्म. When I came into the room, I was like, what has happened? My equipment is sounding shit. It's what has happened to my room. And that from that point, I realized that how badly understood acoustics is because what maybe works in a large space, you have a huge area, you just do that same air gap and thing, and even if you killed the echo in that space, it seems as if the acoustics is done. But in 1,000 square feet room with a low ceiling height of maybe 8 feet, there's so much more. My low frequencies and this, and I mean, like as you said, the diffusers and stuff, or bass traps for low frequencies, completely misunderstood thing.
It's a simple thing. If you're using your phone speaker to listen to music, then one solution for all works. Like you just put foam on your wall. Yeah.
Absolutely.
If you're expecting a subwoofer and a mid driver and a three-way, four-way system, then definitely one solution on the wall, just sticking one kind of foam is not going to work. So some things, you have to break in your head and saying, right, if I'm going to be in a room where I am going to just listen to music from my Bluetooth speaker and stuff, and it doesn't, then yeah, maybe just doing this simple solution would work over there. But in my room, I'm going to be using towers of three-way, four-way with extra woofers with ultra low frequency, then how will that solution work? If your source is using different kind of object to generate that full frequency band, how will your one kind of acoustic treatment do that? I mean, we use air gaps and foams and stuff over there, but then you have to vary densities. Think about it. It's not one solution everywhere. You
Right.
have kinds of stuff. If you're sitting at a certain height, we'll use a different band of treatment there. Above, below, we'll do something else. So it is how you use those solutions.
Right. So tell me, like Kapil, when you're designing a space and the kind of spaces you've designed, so the type of speaker and the speaker placement change the sound characteristics, or would you know that beforehand when you're doing it, or you would,
For
you
if you
know,
look at a studio, definitely you need to know the, for the from the room volume, you need to know what kind of speakers are going in over there. You cannot design a room and say that, oh, speakers are coming here, or you have a fair idea about, thing is, the studio or a studio room or a room which is used for jamming or used for playing music, or it, you start with the isolation shell if they require, but we use the isolation characteristics to also absorb the very low frequency as well. And as I said, you put kind of bass traps and absorption into a room which is hard walls, brick and mortar, like in India and Southeast Asia. Your absorption ways are very narrow queue. They only absorb certain part of this. If you want to have broadband absorption in low field, why not use the isolation shell to be a mass dam system? So in bars and clubs and stuff, as you said, if it's a club and all, and it is a full shell inside a hotel, then definitely, you know a lot of thing goes on the architect's thing as well. He'll say, I want the DJ console. It might not be so. You have to play around with how the placement of speakers is there. In studios we have full control. Studios, theaters, review rooms, you have full control, because this is where it has to go. You cannot put an art painting on my speaker because you want to do it over there. You could do it in the, so the complexity and of the design is based on what is the actual final output.
so the
Yeah,
application, it starts from the application.
yeah. Maybe if you are looking at studio quality sound in a nightclub, and then there has to be a lot of fighting with the architect and the owner that this is what you want. But then the thing is, you to explain to them where you come in, then this is what is possible. If you have to take away something from me, I have to take away something from you, and come to that. In a studio also, when we're designing studios for where there are interior designers over there and they want glass, and you know because that's the vibe the music performer, the music producer requires. I think that's the limitation. You tell them, okay, I can only give you this surface, which is not really, you can use a hard surface more for my speaker wall. I cannot really give you any other place to do that. So it has to be, you need to know the problem that will arise due to your decision, and inform the client or the person you're talking to at the start. And that only comes, with experience, and this that you know that this will be a problem later, or you didn't think of that. Many times we realize a few things when you go on the drawing board. Oh, that's why I said, the solutions are not to be done on a site meeting. You will think it over. You will say, yes, put mirror onto the ceiling. I will angle it over there, but then you didn't think of something else earlier. So it has to be a full thought through solution.
Right. So we have,
Yeah, I think we
sorry,
have some questions.
yeah, we had some one or two. I mean, we had a couple of. Okay, before that, Moshe, what was the speaker that Kapil has heard at his end?
Kapil has heard the iFix 8s.
Acha, you had taken those when you
Yes,
had.
the we had taken
Coming
those
back
those.
to coming back to
Sorry, I think we have
and
Kapil.
can you hear
Sorry,
me
your connection froze for a second.
now?
Now it's better.
Better.
So like we were discussing, like, okay, studio is very fixed parameters and stuff, but when you come into a bar, nightclub, restaurant, and you already have too many variables like reflective surfaces and positions over there. It's my personal thing. I like to go with coaxial speakers, because I don't want the acoustic axis to be somewhere where it could, in a two or three way where it reflects off into there. I like to, I mean, though it is a very small part of the equation, but still it is one thing which I can control by saying that I want a coaxial speaker. And a lot of designs done by my office, by my colleagues who do electroacoustics, we use a lot of coaxial kind of technology over there. And means that there's a lot of thought about the actual frequency response. About the was the crossover points and stuff. Yeah, I'm just saying, before going into the technicals of that and going into deep things over there, it's just a good idea. Yeah, if I'm going to use a coaxial speaker in a studio, definitely I'll go 2-3 layers below to understand what's going to be happening over there, what's the phase response is going to be like, and what are those things. But in a bar, in a club, you want maximum coverage, and you want maximum this, and you want to reduce the problems which can arise from a two-way, three-way box. So I'd heard the coaxial, and Moshe said, no, I'll get you these 2-3 speakers. Say, no, you get me the smallest coaxial, which, for me, is to something to hear the low mid of the speaker is what makes me decide if the speaker is something which I like or not. Which all I'm saying, this is personal. Means
Right.
in designing studios and stuff, Andy used to take CDs with with male voices and heavy low male voices and stuff. And this is how he's trained my ears. So everyone has their own
Everybody
formula.
has their own type of music which they like to take as a reference.
A GRP all band, or is something that we would use and stuff. So I always listen to low mid over there of a speaker and decide whether it's going, without taking into a space and stuff, where, like we were discussing earlier, let's do a demo in the space. Full reflective space, no furniture, no diffusion. Anything will sound bad, unless
Yeah,
you're in the
anything will
peak of
sound
it.
bad.
And
Yeah.
if your
Very
client
true.
tells you to go 100 plus dB over there, he's going to go deaf. So
It's happened with us where we've been asked to demo, and it's a completely bare place. I'm like, there's no point. You're good. You can get anything it'll sound crap only in this place, So it's foolish, which is
everyone has their own process. My process comes from the studio side of it. So for me, always the left and right is very important, because I think like a studio, that wherever that music source is, whether it's a stage, is a DJ console. For me, the left and right is important. I want to see what the left and right speaker sees. Then I want to get
I think
an high, or whether
Kapil, your connection I think is a little
flack from people saying that your way of thinking is different. I said my way of thinking comes from the studio side of it. I only go into the line array thing when I could understand. I went from point source to a coaxial point source to a constant curvature line array to a line array in my designs. You have to understand that, right? You cannot, because that's the new thing in the market is not,
absolutely,
you,
absolutely.
you need to know where the basic of that is going to be there. I learned my acoustics, the electroacoustics in my masters by using a column source, and what is the problem of low being in a column source. So if you compare a line array, of course it's not a direct comparison to a column source, but it is the same thing. The basic is comes from that. When you put a lot of monopoles to get a column source, you have to
Yeah.
understand that how they have got through different technology, all the different companies, is something you go deep into. But
Yeah.
to start off with,
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's what there's everything. It's like you have different types of products, whether it's on the hardware side or it's on your acoustic side. They all are meant for a particular thing. You have to know what is to be used for what, as you said.
you know by theory, if you know by practice, if you've done it somewhere or you heard it somewhere and you don't like it. So this is how it is. It is. I say everyone's process is different.
Right. I think Kapil, I think your connection is. Moshe,
Yes,
can you hear me?
I
Are
can
you?
hear you. I think Kapil's connection is
Kapil connection. I think your
little bit.
connection is. Uh, I think it's nearing bar time, so maybe we'll cool off a bit. Is it the now Kapil is frozen?
Kapil is frozen. Okay.
Kapil, maybe if you
Better.
yeah, you change your yeah,
No,
switch to
it flipped from one internet connection to the other without me knowing. I
would
just checked
sometimes
it,
one
so I put it back.
if one drops, it goes to another. It's technology.
So
This is the new norm.
I have that multi-binder modem, so it's like
Acha.
two
Oh,
connections. Anyways, so yeah, so everyone's process is different. So I'm not saying uh, that my process might be the right one, but I come from a studio background.
Yeah,
I started designing studios before I started designing spaces, places of worship or whatever. So and also a lot of things is the ability of someone to understand that a small room acoustic and a big room acoustic is different.
Very different.
So what we use in a big room, like in an auditorium, this air gap and this foam or the insulation would work better than in a small room. So you need to understand what a limitation
Absolutely.
or something
And
over.
that's what happened with us when our demo room, when that person, fine, that works for the auditorium, but when they did it in my 1,000 square feet demo room, it was a disaster. And then I kind of had to understand when I spoke to, I mean, unfortunately, this is way back. I didn't know you then, but otherwise I would have just called you up. And this is, I'm talking about almost, I don't know what, 8, 10 years back. Then I kind of figured out, okay, I learned the basics on my own and stuff. And I realized that what I need to do with, because every application is different. My application is something else. And the other thing is that talking about studios, what I realized is when you talk to anybody, primarily acoustics is understood with studios. So what people understand is that you have to deaden the place.
Correct.
And maybe in all time, I mean, I was not making a studio. Mine is a demo room where I'm using PA equipment, but I have to I'm feeding a lot of energy into the room, so I've got to dissipate that energy. But my point is, it's not a studio. I don't want to make it dead. So coming down to, like you were saying, that experience, that education, what you need to do is very important in a space.
Yeah, it is
And
also feedback from a customer, right? Like in studios, we know what exactly is there. Like it's not all studios. I mean, some so they're different. As I said, it's not there's no right or wrong way, but it's the final result which is going to be used in that space. A lot of
in that
studios
place.
come across which are completely dead, but that's a different thing. It goes into psychoacoustics and spatial cues and what is. And some studios are, they some usually use a lot of skyline diffusers, and we add a lot of phase anomalies over there. And some people, like, we use a tune based trap, and our this is, diffusion is different. We like to get the sparkle in the room, so we like to diffuse with the form of a back wall diffusion. So there is, the client is free to go to a room and say, this is the kind of room I'm comfortable working in, and this is the kind of design I want to go for. Earlier it was not that, but today, as I said, with the education and with so many people doing this, it has been divided out. A lot of people have a lot of different school of thought, so you have to respect that, and
So
that's how the solutions are being.
on that, I'm going to ask you one last question, which we had received, that because since we're talking about diffusers or absorbers, which of these acoustics panels works best for the first reflection points?
Absorbers, a full range absorber.
Okay, okay,
If you see photos of studios and stuff we've designed, we always use diffusion on the back wall. If it's first reflection, we never use a diffuser on that. The diffuser cannot be in our design theory, doesn't need to be on the first reflection point. You need to have a full range absorber. So a full range absorber as well, the way we define it, is a tune based trap with a narrow cube with some fibrous material stuff in the front. So as I said, our design theory is getting the three modes out of the way with the form of the isolation shell. We also gives you the soundproofing, as we call it, and also tries to reduce the primary modes, the three modes over there, with the as a big mass dam system, and then we start adding the absorption. But we will also try to splay the side walls to take the first reflection out. But most rooms are rectangles right now. You can also absorb. You can also angle your absorbers, but we will always use an absorber.
okay, okay. So in our studios, because I know in Delhi most of them haven't opened primarily because of the current scenario. In Bombay, what is the scene? Are they opening or are they shut?
Certain post-production studios are on. The thing is, we have generated a document. I will send that to you about how to start a studio and what to do, what are the general practices. So we collected a lot of data from a lot of studios around the world. The thing is, space is a big issue in India for social distancing. If you see any kind of advertising and post-production stuff, you have a director, assistant, dubbing director, artist, and stuff. So you cannot maintain social. I mean, though there are some big studios like Yashraj who can do that, but I think everyone wants safety, and still people are using studios where they can only they are the engineer is the only one, or the engineer plus the artist. So those studios are running. But the studio where you have multiple people, like advertising studios and stuff, they are going very slow. Most of my clients, or 80% of them, I haven't opened. So it's I think because you're using the same air, you're breathing the
Yeah,
same
same.
air.
Yeah,
Yeah, if you're touching a lot of surfaces,
enclosed in that area. Even
most surfaces over there cannot be sanitized because they are
yeah,
softer for furnishing, which cannot you cannot put a sanitizing spray on that.
sanitizing
There's some
spray.
limitation in studios.
I think even for that matter, microphones that they're even the microphones. How do you sanit? I mean, eventually,
You cannot sanitize the inside. You can sanitize the actual the metal grill outside.
still part, but not the yeah, because you're kind of when you're talking.
What you could use is you could use different filters for every artist,
Maybe, yeah, probably.
or you could tell the artist to carry his own microphone and filter. So that would because,
That's
yeah. A lot of dubbing artists do own their own microphone and stuff.
yes. I know. They're comfortable with their mics, which they know that. But yeah,
But not all of them, I would say.
no. I think so. The times are a little difficult, but hopefully by soon, that's what we are all hopeful of, that things would get better soon. Right, Moshe?
I mean,
Absolutely.
like I say, all these years, this was the only time I could sit down and do smart. So everyone has taken a project and learned something new. I mean, it's not that you have to learn something new. You could just chill and sleep all this while,
Correct.
and you don't have to come out with a new skill and stuff. But I always wanted to learn something other than minimalist. I did that.
No, that's the point. That's the thing. You have to make use of this time in the best possible way, whatever it is. I mean,
Even if you
that's what
don't,
even.
there's no pressure of doing it over there
Of
because
course.
it's just because social media is there to show how everyone is a master chef now and stuff. So if you can't do it, you can't do it.
No, that,
Everyone has their own way of getting to things.
true, but
No
that
one
is
is the same.
similar what Samir said last week. He also said that upgrade your skill set
Hmm.
so that's what you're doing. I mean, I guess that's what if anybody who when they have the time may as well do it, because of course we all are watching Netflix and all the OTT stuff, but that that to some extent is okay, but then eventually one needs to upgrade themselves also. I
Yeah,
mean, if
whatever it is there, I think monotony should be away. We were talking about previous week's events or the week before events about people and the phase and the mental phase people are going from. I think monotony is what is there. If you're gonna do, see, having a schedule and doing something is fine. I get up early and I have a shower and come into my study. I want to feel I'm in office, work with my
correct,
colleagues and stuff. But that doesn't mean I'm going to do it every day. So probably tomorrow, if I don't have a early morning meeting, I'll sleep in today. So having some kind of change into your lifestyle
yeah,
also is there. A mind itself cannot, as we said, your all form solution cannot be your solution.
not be the
Doing
absolutely,
the same thing
absolutely.
all the time is not there. And
No,
I think we will come out stronger and better than what
yeah.
we a better version of ourselves. And whether it is a better skill set of being a chef or better in my way, someone who likes more single malts and learning about gins. So
we
everyone
we keep hearing and seeing on social
Yes,
your
connoisseur. Yeah.
maybe you should hold some tasting sessions, which you can.
distancing. I will taste it for you. I'll tell you how it was.
Yeah, educational.
Yeah, I don't
That's also. I
I,
think Moshe, you participated in one of those recently, didn't
I've
you?
yeah, I've joined a tasting club, an online Zoom club.
My
So
sister did that in Singapore. She asked me to do that. But I just want to like it or not like it. As I said, I don't want to get deep into it.
no,
Whether
but the
it was,
Kapil, when I brought the IFIX 8s to your office at Munro almost 2 years ago, the depth in which you explained to me the beauty of these coaxes, I just was reminded by those words when you just explained about coaxes. That actually, we know, Siddharth and I know that iFix 8 is our star performer. It's always sold the highest. But the depth of explanation, the way you explained it, why this is a beautiful speaker, that the words that come, that is educative, and that's what we can do with spirits also.
right, yeah, I'm not an expert in spirits, so I probably don't know much about
I
it.
think
But
you're
all the travels you do, I always feel that there is an expert for everything. If I have a question about a loudspeaker, the coax loudspeaker, I'm gonna ask you because you know more of it than I do. So when I'm going to, I'm traveling, I'm going to a boutique somewhere, and I'm going to ask that gentleman, dude,
Yeah.
what whiskey do you
Which one
recommend?
do you?
He knows better. That's the thing.
Everybody.
When you know that there is someone who knows something better than you, and you accept that, that is where you will grow more.
Yes.
I
When
mean,
you say, I know everything, I don't want to upgrade my skill or whatever, then how will you learn?
listen, if you want to know about Scotch, the best place to learn is Scotland. They will teach you.
The little bit I've learned is from Andy. Andy is Scottish, and there are range of mountains in Scotland called the Munros. So it was
Wonders.
our retirement plan
Oh,
to have a small distillery over there, have one whiskey called the Munro, and
oh,
but life has now delayed all our retirement plans.
by
But
a
yeah,
year,
and
by a year and a half.
Andy retired 5 years before he was supposed to retire. He's in Italy now. So
Okay,
for him being Scottish, he has no excitement to go to Scotland. For
Scotland, right, right.
me being a non-Scotsman, an Indian, I
True,
have no
true,
excitement to
true.
go to Scotland. So
Yeah, absolutely,
everyone plans a lot of things. We never planned this COVID to happen, and we go our own way. But
absolutely,
Correct.
absolutely.
you have to have that plan. At
True.
least if it's not, that day someone told me that down south, Coorg is the Scotland of India. Is what it's
Hmm.
called. Never know. If
Hmm.
I go to Scotland, I might be in Coorg after
Cool.
we.
Yeah, yeah. I
Always,
haven't really,
always have the idea in your
right.
head, and there's no means there's no way of putting yourself down. It's always having a positive thought in your head
Yes,
is all.
absolutely, absolutely,
True.
absolutely.
It's all
Cool.
So
negativity
So,
true.
around.
on that note, I think Moshe,
Very, very
um,
educative, very,
uh,
very inspiring. I think
Chat, chat.
we've learned a lot.
maybe we can have a next whiskey session. Huh?
Certainly.
Huh? क्यों
Whiskey
Kapil?
and sound.
Huh?
There's a very good friend of mine. We could probably get him. Farad. He is a whiskey connoisseur. He knows more about
Done.
whiskey.
Why not? Why
So
not? I
Farad,
mean,
we could do
done.
a whiskey session with him.
done. And we can even have some music online. I mean, we are so we can do that. But so just for our viewers, in case I just want to apologize. Last Friday we had a technical glitch. I don't know why there was. We were just not able to go live. It wasn't something at our end, so that's why we after half an hour or 40 minutes, we thought it's best to just postpone it. That's why we are doing it today. But thank you so much, Kapil. Thank you for
Thank
your
you.
time. Thank you for the insight. Thank you for the what your valuable things which you have learned over the years, which come with experience. That's the whole
Yes.
purpose of our these sessions, that we go out to the audience. And if things like this, because if we didn't have this, Kapil wouldn't have this 1 hour actually. I
Correct.
know that for a fact.
Yes.
So that's the whole purpose of kind of you talking to people and getting your experience out there. And like you said, what all we learn, whatever we have learned, if we are able to share it, I think that only grows things in
Yeah,
a big way.
share and teaching is self-learning as well. That's what all the great guys say, that you have to teach and you self-learn more, and that's what
Well
it's all
said.
about.
True, true.
Well said. Thank you.
Thank you all. Thank you, Kapil. Thank you, Moshe.
Thank you, Siddharth. Thank you, Kapil.
Thanks a lot. Bye. Good evening.
Bye.
Bye. See you soon.